What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Sports Degenerate Podcast. Today we got starts of the week for week 2. So I am going to give you guys one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, and one tight end that I think are going to have great weeks in week 2. And no, I am not going to bring up guys like Saquon Barkley and Cooper Kupp. I'm not bringing up guys that are going to be in your lineup no matter what. These are fringe players. Whether these players are people you picked up off waivers after week 1, whether you draft them to be bench players, whether you are thinking about flexing them, whatever it is, these guys are not guaranteed starters. The criteria I used for this list. For the quarterback, I picked a player ranked outside the top 12 on Fantasy Pros. Running back, same thing, ranked outside the top 12. Wide receiver, I picked one ranked outside the top 20. And tight end, ranked outside the top 12 on Fantasy Pros. So these guys are not guaranteed starts. Let's hop into it, guys. Let's start with quarterback. Like I said, ranked outside the top 12 on Fantasy Pros. We got Baker Mayfield, man. He had almost 30 fantasy points last week. He threw for almost 300 yards and had 4 touchdowns. Granted, he was playing Washington last week, and they probably have the worst secondary in the league. But now, this week, week 2, he's playing the Lions. And their pass defense does not scare me at all. Matt Stafford threw against them super easily in week 1. And we all know Baker has the playmakers and the weapons to make great plays for him. Mike Evans, elite touchdown maker. Chris Godwin, elite yards after the catch. Even Rachaad White is a great pass catching back and can take a screen to the house and give Baker points. So I think Baker is a solid starter this week. I think he is going to have a great week. In one league, I put in a claim for Baker because my starting quarterback is Joe Burrow. I am starting Baker over Joe Burrow all day in week 2. Quarterback start of the week, Baker Mayfield, baby. Let's move on to running back. This player is also ranked outside the top 12 on Fantasy Pros. For week 2, we got J.K. Dobbins, man. The fantasy darling of years past. We all know when Dobbins is healthy, he performs every time. But that's the problem. He just can't stay healthy in his career. So I say we ride Dobbins this whole season until he probably gets hurt. Hopefully not, but probably gets hurt. Last week, J.K. Dobbins ran for 135 yards and 1 touchdown, had 21 fantasy points. Now the Chargers play the Carolina Panthers, who might have the worst run defense in the league. Last week, Alvin Kamara ran for 83 yards and a touchdown against the Panthers and had 20 fantasy points. And we all know the Chargers' game plan is to run the hell out of the ball. They are going to feed Dobbins, and I think you should put Dobbins in your lineup. He is going to be a solid start. Running back start of the week, J.K. Dobbins. For wide receiver, I went a little bit deeper. I picked a player ranked outside the top 20 on Fantasy Pros. I got Terry McLaurin this week. He didn't have a good week 1. He only had 2 fantasy points. But if you watched the game, you saw that Jaden Daniels missed him on a couple throws, including one where Terry was open for a 70-yard touchdown. Now the Commanders play the Giants, and the Giants have a bottom 5 pass defense. Sam Darnold threw for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against this Giants defense in week 1. I think Terry bounces back against this poor defense and has a good game. Here is a stat in Terry's favor. He has played 9 games against the Giants in his career, and he averages over 80 yards per game. Week 2 start of the week, Terry McLaurin, put him in your lineups. Let's end it with tight end. So for this position, I picked a player ranked outside the top 12 on Fantasy Pros. For week 2, I got Colby Parkinson, man. He is the tight end for the Rams and is currently playing the Tyler Higbee role for that offense. We all know that role has some value in fantasy. In week 1, he gave you 4 catches for 47 yards, which for a tight end, you'll take 8 points all day. But I think there's room for him to get more targets because Puka Nacua is on IR now. There's more targets to go around. So I think he gives you a floor of around 8 points, but more room for improvement. Not to mention, the Rams play Arizona this week, and I am not scared of their defense at all. So week 2, start of the week for tight end, Colby Parkinson. So those are the starts of the week for week 2. Like always, if you have any lineup questions, any betting questions, any questions at all, comment on the podcast, comment on YouTube, or DM me on social media. I am glad to help you guys. I love doing this. Also, stay tuned. Later this week, I'm going to post a preview of all the games coming up in week 2. Also going to post a preview of the bets I have for week 2. Thanks for watching, guys. I love all of you.